JPMorgan has issued a dire warning that something is off with the global oil math currently in the market. Even though we have seen the oil prices right here, they are consistently rising. They've risen from $83 right here. They've recently touched $100 plus. It's sitting roughly at $100, $99.80. And JPMorgan is sounding the alarm. So we're going to look into this, the mathematical issue with oil. We have some of the major updates to talk about for the markets. The Strait of Hormuz, where are we up to right here? What has the US been doing? And look, a very big plan that could, spell the climax of this whole conflict that might be in the works right now. Plus an absolute ton more what Iran is saying, and then we'll talk about the gold and silver price at the end. So if you guys enjoy it, like the video. Let's get straight into it. So something is off with the global oil math. What is this? They are hinting at, JP Morgan is hinting at in this flash note, this flash warning, that the oil supply, the oil price is not really adding up right now, and people should be aware of something big to come. So there's some very important highlights to understand from this, summarized well by Grok here. And he says, here are 10 sentences deduced from the JP Oil flash note. Oil markets rebalance through simple maths. Supply shocks force inventory draws, then demand cuts, then prices. Spare capacity failed as Saudi and UAE barrels were cut off from global markets. Global supply losses hit 9.1 million barrels a day in March, exploding to 13.7 million barrels per day in April. Inventories drew down hard, 4 million barrels a day in March and a record 7.1 million barrels a day in April. Demand collapsed 2.8 million barrels a day in March and 4.3 million barrels a day in April, mostly from physical shortages, not high prices. Asia, Middle East, and Africa took 87% of the demand hit due to the Gulf supply dependence. Refinery run cuts quietly balanced the residual 2.3 million barrels a day gap. Both months, petrochemicals and aviation bore the brunt as LPG, naphtha, and jet fuel vanished. Brent averaged $100, but dated crude surged to $121, revealing real stress. And arithmetic demands further price rises to pull Europe and the US into rebalancing. So right now we are seeing hints that this situation with oil, this alert, it's only going to get worse over time as we break down the latest status of the Iran conflict right now. But one thing we are knowing is something is off. Alarm bells are getting set off right now. People need to understand what is happening. And just recently, there was a big wipeout in the US stocks. So the US stock market teetering a little bit. You can see right here, NASDAQ falling, S&P 500 falling, and oil right here down the bottom is rising. So why is this happening? Why is the stock market acting like this? And it's because this kind of lull, this kind of blockade that is in effect, and Iran is blocking. Both parties are effectively slowing down the Strait of Hormuz quite effectively. The US has a blockade in place, but also Iran has been getting up to its own things in the Strait of Hormuz right here. You can see in the background the Iranian small boats, which Trump told us these were defeated. They're running around, running rampant just recently, boarding vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. So you can see right here the IRGC has released footage of them basically taking over some ships themselves in the Strait of Hormuz. But also at the same time, the US itself has been sailing around boarding ships as well outside of the Strait of Hormuz too. So both parties, basically, blocking up the Strait of Hormuz right now. As this, arm wrestle continues to see what happens next. Trump has come out saying, I have ordered the US Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats, though they may be, that is putting mines in the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. There is no hesitation. Additionally, our minesweepers are clearing the strait right now. I am hereby ordering the activity to continue, but at a tripled up level. Thank you for your attention on this matter. And one thing we have seen the US do is kind of buy more time. So blockade going through. Same, they have had a ceasefire extended with Lebanon. Okay, so potentially a 3-week ceasefire. And, the longer this goes on for, though, the more oil that is blocked out of Iran, It's going to be an interesting position because what might be happening in the background, and this is a bit of secret alpha. Have a look at this. This might be the secret big plan. Let's just reveal this. So the UK Ministry of Defence has provided an update for operations in the Middle East. Per the release, the UK plans to host a 44-nation planning conference on the Strait of Hormuz today. Additionally, UK Typhoon jets, F-35 jets, and Wildcat and Merlin helicopters have now flown over 2,200 hours of defensive missions over Cyprus, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. The Type 45 destroyer HMS Dragon remains on the task off the coast of Cyprus as well. So, could there be some big secret plan getting, launched by, a contingency, like a huge amount of nations right now? This is something to just have on the radar. There could be a lull where this huge armada is built up and then maybe they attack Iran in the grand finale. That is something just to consider. Just have it on the radar as a potential option. Even though, look, we've heard politicians saying they're not going to get involved in the war. You guys know politicians quite often flip, so they can't really be trusted, in my opinion. But that is just something to have on the radar. So there is a bit of a lull right now. There is a blockade. Not much oil getting through. And you can see right here over on Strait of Hormuz tracking, there's only been 5 ships cross in the last 24 hours. And there are 280 vessels waiting. And, the big picture is this is, it's a crawl right now. It is very, very low. And the longer this goes on, the worse the situation will get. And some people in the military, they cannot help themselves with what's been going on. And check this out. U.S. Special Forces soldier involved in Operation Absolute Resolve to kidnap President Nicolas Maduro. He's been arrested and charged because he was doing some big bets allegedly on Polymarket. So according to CNN, $400,000 in profits. And we have seen more and more of this. And it's not just the US military. I've seen multiple military, pilots and other people get involved in this. And they've got insider info. And they're using that insider info to, effectively absolutely make bank on some of these trades. But some of them are getting caught out and getting arrested. And look, if the charges stick, might be a lot of losses right here, because apparently that is against the law. So you can't be betting on missions and military intel right there if you're part of the military. If you're not part of the military, it's fair game. And having said that, regarding the economy, 45% of the S&P 500 is related to AI right now. So we're going to see how AI goes. I do like AI personally. I use a lot of Google Gemini. Been using a bit of Perplexity recently. It is quite effective for doing things, especially around the house as well. If you want to do DIY projects, so you just want to increase your knowledge, take some photos, upload it to AI. It's quite helpful, I find. But 45% related to AI. So is there a bit of a bubble growing in the S&P 500? Potentially. Now back to the Strait of Hormuz. Look, Iran is putting up a united front right now. So they are saying, one God, one leader, one nation, one path. That path being the path to victory for Iran, dearer than life. So they're looking to go all the way in this conflict right now. And you also have Saeed right here saying Iranians are all united more than ever, and they're willing to go to the distance. That's the intel coming out of Iran right now. So they're not really looking to capitulate. They're looking to withstand this. I would think, though, look, my own independent point of view, the blockade is pretty effective at blocking Iranian exports of oil out of the Persian Gulf. Yes, there are some land bridges and other places they could try and get oil out, but not with the super tankers right here. But what I would say as well, it's a race against time for Trump. So it's not really a clear-cut, anyone's super winning right now. I would say, it might be a race against time with this oil situation. And maybe, jpmorgan's warning might be true, right? So the real dated crude is $121. And the longer this goes on, you'd only think it's going to get worse. That is my kind of take on the situation. And if we jump into the financial markets in particular, how is everything rocking and rolling? So a lot of flatness on the market recently, maybe a little bit of a decrease, right? So gold probably encountering a little bit of losses recently, just in the short term. As it gets a bit spookier, right? So the market is getting a little bit spookier with this drawn out, ceasefire / blockade. You can see right here, gold kind of sliding down 4,600 off, a nice little high of 4,875, but it's off its recent all-time high of 5,400. But you guys know I'm staying long-term bullish on gold. And the same deal with silver. Silver's going to be doing the exact same thing as gold, sinking up pretty nicely. Sitting about $74, $75 with a little bit of extra spookiness probably coming into the market. Just with this, breakdown in communications, right? So yes, there's a ceasefire, but there's a blockade. Both of these parties are as tense as they've ever been, right? And, there doesn't really seem to be much of a diplomatic resolution to what is going on right now. And the markets aren't really liking it. They're getting a little bit seasick of the situation. And you can see right here, S&P 500, not a massive fall, but, it is down a little bit. But it's actually been performing, pretty strongly, actually. But how much of this is real? How much of this is just pumped up AI stocks? We'll see what happens to that. But, the other commodities holding up pretty good. Copper, platinum, and guys, that's your major update for today. So if you guys enjoy it, that's what we're up to with the Iranian conflict and the financial markets. And that's important things to understand. So look, as long as this thing is unresolved, things will probably get worse around the world. So it might just be something we have to stay patient for to see what happens next. If you guys want the next big breaking update, intel straight to your YouTube subscription feed, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you guys in the next one.